welcome Kaitlin Aldrich. And Kaitlin, it's been a few weeks. I've been under the weather here and there, and it's being able to connect. But this is so important because there's so much happening in the city of Ludington, and what the city council does, and getting that word out to the listeners and viewers. So thanks for connecting with us this morning.
Yeah, it's good to be back on the air, and it's good to see you and get back out there.
Absolutely. Let's talk city council tonight at 6 p.m. at the city council chambers there. You have everybody's seated, right? We have all the spots for the city council full. I always wondered about this, and maybe I'll put you on the spot for just a second, and hopefully I'm not doing that. But the seats of city council, it has been where we've had some new faces come in and such. Election time, is it back on a normal schedule at this point, or is there going to be any sort of open seats here coming up?
It's on a normal schedule as far as I know. Yep.
Okay, all
So
right.
so
So
yes.
good to see that.
Yep. So no open seats, no special elections, nothing like that.
All right, there you go, and that helps you from a governance standpoint to be able to go forward with decisions and being able to serve the city of Ludington as strong as possible. One of the things that's going to come up in conversation tonight, it is water and septic fees. And I said this a few minutes ago on the air, is that we normally don't see a lot of fees go down. I don't think that's going to be the case tonight, or will they stay the same? What's that conversation like?
Water and sewer rates are always something that are a constant changing dynamic, right? Water and sewer rates in the city of Ludington did not go up for years.
Hmm.
Um, Not recently, but for a couple decades ago. So we've been recently playing catch up. Um,
Okay.
we have on the water side, we have the lead service line replacement, which is a state mandate, um, which requires us to replace the lead services from the main into people's private homes, which is
Mhm.
usually the responsibility of the homeowner. But because those are lead lines and it's a state mandate, the all municipalities in the state of Michigan are responsible for replacing those lead lines. Um, we are replacing them at a slow, steady rate. We've got about 15 years left to replace all of those. That's about a cost of $600,000 a year.
Mm.
So that cost is incorporated into the water rates. So that is a impact on the rate, right, every single year. And that does factor into what the rate increase is going to be. We also have capital projects. Our water infrastructure is not the type of infrastructure that you ever want to neglect or stop investing in. There's constant capital improvement, maintenance, and just daily care of the infrastructure that we have to do, both above ground and underground. So we have the maintenance and capital at the water treatment plant,
Mhm.
right next to Stearns Beach. And then we also have the underground water lines on the utility side that have to be cared for. So when you factor all of those things in, we are looking at, I believe, a 7% increase for water in 2026, and then 4% increases in water rates for 27, 28, 29, and 2030. Uh,
And you're saying that to help play catch up in that sense, where do you think it will? I mean, in the next 3 or 4 years, will it come up to where it should have been? Is that the projected goal?
um, I mean, yes, but it's also just keeping up with the rate of inflation, right? The cost of inflation, the cost of goods going up. Um, it's to pay for those capital improvements. It's this balancing act of we have capital projects to do, but the rate users now should not be paying for 100% of the cost of capital improvements that will last for 30 years, right? So they should only be paying for the portion of that capital improvement that affects them now. And that has to be spread out over time. So it's this very complex formula that is determined by a financial services firm that we've been working with for the past several months to help us come up with a formula that is what we consider fair for rate users. That rate does include a bond, also a water bond, I believe in 2027. And that bond helps us to kind of what I was referring to earlier, ensure that the rate users today are only paying for the infrastructure that they're using now, and that the rate users in 2030, 2035, 2040 are paying their fair share of the costs. If we don't take out that bond, the water rates today are going to go up 30, 40%. And then
Wow.
the rate users today are paying more of the burden than they should be for costs in the future. I don't know
Yeah.
if that makes
No,
I
absolutely.
hope that makes sense, but there is a reason that we bond, and it's not just because of cash in the bank. It's to be equitable to users,
Mhm.
um, and to make sure that we're distributing that cost appropriately.
If you're just joining us, we're talking with Kaitlin Aldrich, City Manager of Ludington. You've got City Council meeting tonight, but tonight is not going to be the only time recently that the city has had conversations or sat down to discuss topics. You have subcommittee meetings and such. One of them that you have been talking about is that recently to shift gears a little bit, and then we'll come back to some of the other topics on tonight's city council meeting, is the lawsuit that has been filed by the owners of AndyS in downtown Ludington against the city of Ludington. And I would assume in our conversations that we've had on the air in the past, or the feeling was that your goal was to try to have conversations with them and to try to work out some sort of plan going forward, discuss what the city had. At least in writing versus what they had in writing, or at least expectations both ways. But ultimately, that did not happen. And so now there's been a suit filed against the city, and it's not the first time cities get sued, for this. But the conversation then turns to, what is the city going to do? Is it going to continue to try to work things out, or is it time to just let things work itself out in court? Where do you and the city stand at this point?
I think both things can happen simultaneously, Chris. The court process can absolutely proceed, and if both parties want to continue those conversations on the side to try to work out a resolution, um, and negotiate some sort of terms, at, on the side, and work out an agreement,
Mhm.
that can absolutely happen, and that does happen in these cases.
Now, there's a lot of public opinion out there. So I'm just, and I don't want to necessarily get into the weeds too much, because now if you're going to go to court, then you hope that the truth comes out, all the facts come out, and then people can assess based on that information, rather than us in the media sort of trying to lay as much of the foundation down, because in the court that'll just it'll flush it out in the sense. um they are from the suit looking for a jury trial on this, for it to be a jury that will determine this. The question then comes up based on the opinions that are flying around in public and the comments on social media and such. Would you want this to not take place in the Ludington area? Would you want this to be somewhere else, a different environment, or do you feel like that there could be fairness on both sides with a court hearing in Mason County?
I don't, I won't necessarily go into those details. I think that the comments on social media are folks that are ultimately fueled by the same goal that the Reamer team and the City of Ludington team have, and that is to get AndyS open.
Mhm.
And it's a shame that we are where we are. And it's really easy to point fingers and to sit and type behind a keyboard and have really strong opinions. But at the end of the day, we all just want to see downtown businesses be successful.
Mhm.
But we have to do things the right way. And I have a job to do. My team has a job to do, and Andy Reamer has a business to run.
Mhm.
So we're all just trying to dot our I's and cross our T's and follow a process, and now we're in a court process. And
Yeah.
I don't really mean to avoid your question necessarily, but we really are just all trying to do our jobs and do the best that we can. And unfortunately we couldn't work that out before we made it here,
Mhm.
to this point. But from the city's perspective, we have a building that is not in compliance with the site plan, and is encroaching into city right of way. And we have concerns, and we have site plan violations, and we have to get those corrected or worked out in some manner, to move forward.
And as you know, when you get to court, and I want to zone in on exactly what you just said here a moment ago, is that when you get to court, it does go from, or you would hope that it goes from being opinion to fact. And so you feel like the city can stand on that as fact and not necessarily opinion. Is that correct regarding the site plan and your side? Do you mind that's not opinion? It's you've got it checked. You had an outside firm double check your work and so on and so forth.
Well, I mean, correct. We'll let the facts speak for themselves, and let the documentation and the work that we have done, and the steps that have been followed, and we'll let all of that speak for itself, and see where things land.
After the dust has settled and whoever comes out of this, and wins the case, if you want to put the word win on it, it obviously, as you mentioned a few moments ago, the good of the people, the of Ludington, and being able to see a restaurant open and employ locals that want to work, and tourists that want to visit. And at the end of the day, when the dust settles, do you feel like, and I know it's early to ask this question, but do you feel like it's the formalities of going through this, yeah, get everything out, get a judgment, and then be able to work together? Because obviously there's tourism for the Ludington area. There's the economic impact. What does the other side of this look like, I guess, is what I'm trying to ask.
I mean, the other side of this looks like, we the city of Ludington wants to encourage development. I mean, we really would like, and I realize that from the court of public opinion, it does not look like we are encouraging development. And that's where, it's incredibly frustrating when you have, the court of public opinion, and it's very easy to take things at face value. But again, there is a process that has to be followed, and there's public property, right? And the city of Ludington owns certain property, and we own that property for a reason. And in this case, their building was not built on their property. The columns were built over their property. The footings for the columns are built underneath the roadway, our public roadway. And if there are public related water or sewer emergencies, anything like that, we have concerns that if we have an emergent public project that we have to do, a water leak, a sewer leak, and we have to rip up that road, we could compromise the integrity of those columns. And who's responsible for that?
I heard something over this past week, and I didn't hear this before, but can you clarify the angle, the entrance there at the corner of Rath and Ludington, the angled entrance, was that in the original plans to the city, presented to the city, or was that changed?
To be honest, I don't know. I do know that I'm trying to remember. That's a great question. The the overhang shifted like 13 feet to the south, and I think that had to do with that corner of the building there at Ludington and Rath. And I don't
Okay.
remember if it had to do with it originally being like a 90-degree angle there at the corner, and then they softened that to the building being at an angle. But I honestly don't remember. Without going down the hall and pulling the site plan, I don't recall.
Okay. And that was part of that conversation this past week was, okay, well, maybe that shifted things, and it did. Something shifted to the south, that overhang you'd mentioned. So that will be something that, obviously comes out during the court hearing of, okay, was this shift happen? Did the city know about it? Did they approve it? And all of that. But what is well, I guess my other question is this: this is a court case that is not going to be resolved before the snow flies, right? I mean, this isn't something
Correct.
that's going to happen next week. What is the city going to do with the pillar situation and snow plowing? Because that was a big part of what you and I talked about the last time we were on the air. How are you going to deal with that with the city workers?
We'll avoid them. Um, we've got traffic cones put up, and we'll have to plow around the traffic cones.
Okay.
Yep, we'll just have a protective barrier there, and it will not be plowed well. So
Do you
essentially
think that will?
that right turn lane will be shortened and narrowed just naturally by a snow barrier and some traffic cones.
Okay. Obviously, both parties have their own case, their own evidence, their own information that's going to come to light. The bigger picture is, how do you accommodate, if you have to? I mean, maybe you don't feel like that's what you have to do right now, but how do you accommodate the public opinion? And because that could be worse than just the meetings that you have with Reamers and AndyS there. How do you get the information out to the public other than conversations like this and such? Is there an effort underway by the city to do that, or should they do that? Because you mentioned a very good point. You don't want to discourage people from visiting the area and tourists, and you want businesses to want to open up in the Ludington area. What's the position of the city to handle something like this?
I mean, we had earlier this month a developer day, and that was really targeted to developers and contractors, realtors, and any interested folks in developing here in the city of Ludington, we focused on vacant parcels, any, developable properties, anywhere in the city of Ludington, and just talked about the process and really what the UDO has opened up in terms of development, and other successful developments in the past, like Lofts on Row and so the Vischer projects, with some residential opportunities downtown, just different successful projects and why they were successful. And that came down to, communication. And if there was a change in the project along the way, it was communicated back to the city and it followed the steps and went to the planning commission and got proper approval and followed the appropriate channels to get the authorization for site plan changes and all of those things. And we have a process if something needs to change along the way, whether it's because of construction barriers or because a developer has a vision change along the way, and would like to maybe modify something that they had wanted to do in the past, and maybe it's either a desire or a need partway through construction that they need to deviate from their original plan. We have steps in place to allow them to change their mind, as long as it meets certain criteria. And in this case, there wasn't communication from the original site plan approval. So here we are, the building is up, and we have deviations from what was originally approved a few years ago.
And so that means that this is, I mean, there's unless there's some sort of out of court settlement, this restaurant is not going to open, this year. That's probably a given at this point. Is that fair?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I suppose that the parties could mediate outside of court, or who knows if the court could expedite this. I don't know. The end of the year is coming upon us very quickly, though. I will say
Yeah.
that.
Is this bike lane option or these one-way street options or anything like that? Is that completely off the table? And would it even make sense at this point to have it even part of the conversation?
Um, I don't know.
Okay.
I would say that it's a tool in the toolbox. Um, I don't know what the appetite is for it to be a part of the solution necessarily. Um, it was something that the city thought of um, early this fall, when really we didn't have any communication from the Reamer team, and we were hoping that they had a solution for meeting that 1 foot 10 setback. And we on the city side were really hoping that we would have some sort of solution, and we'd gone through long periods of really no success or proposal to solve the problem. And we kind of came up with the solution of the bike lane and wanted to see if it was a feasible option cost wise, or even implementation wise. Um, and it was just really out of out of pure innovation and creativity, I guess.
Okay.
um
Well, and you probably don't find yourself in situations like this all the time. So you're hoping that there's conversations or as you mentioned, sometimes a solution that works through it so that both parties can continue for AndyS to continue construction and getting ready for a strong spring or summer as it might be at this point. and to be able for the city to be not looked at, and I certainly have read a lot of the comments out there that not looked at as kind of stifling this business from opening up, but it looks like you're sticking to what you believe is right, or this, and I say you as the representative of the city believes that this is the right path to go on.
Chris,
And go ahead.
can I take a moment to talk about the bike lane?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So the bike lane is actually it's really just paint on the road. And the bike lane is the future of downtown Ludington. Okay, Rath Avenue is part of the national bike route. And it goes right down Rath Avenue. And it turns down Dowland. And in the next 10 years, it is going to become an established bike lane. Um, we it is part of a larger conversation that the city has been having with the Chamber Alliance, with a trails group. We're getting ready to roll out the actual plan, a larger plan for the trail. It will be presented to the various boards, the county board, our board, Pure Marquette Township. And in that plan, there was already a preliminary vision for what the trail would look like going down Rath Avenue. So this concept of a bike lane on the east side of Rath Avenue, the city didn't just pull out of thin air at the beginning of September, okay? It was already in a documented guide that this countywide trails group had come up with earlier in the spring. And it's referenced in the city's master plan, that we would like to refer to the larger visions for bike paths and things like that, especially in our downtown and those types of things. So we were talking about this bike path, and to implement that bike path on Rath Avenue from Ludington Avenue down to Dowland is maybe $30,000. I realize that's a lot of money, but we're talking maybe $30,000 ish for some paint and some 24-inch tall delineators every 10 feet. So when vehicles are driving past that bike lane, they have a vertical element that separates the bike lane from the travel lane, and really just creates like a clear, a protected path from those who are using the bike lane. What made that bike lane jump from $30,000 to $105,000 is the stretch from Ludington Avenue to the alley just south of AndyS, where we were going to require an actual curb, a protected curb, be put in that stretch in front of AndyS restaurant to protect the columns.
Okay.
So the bulk of that $105,000 for the bike lane was to protect the columns, so that the
Because right now it's an edge right there, right? There's no curb. Is that correct?
well, if it was a if it was just a painted bike lane, then the plow truck would still plow up to the regular curb right next to those columns.
Okay.
So if we put in, if through this bike lane implementation, if the Reamer team installed a protected bike lane in front of their building, then the plow truck or regular vehicular traffic would only be able to drive up to the hard curb that would be installed in front of the AndyS building. That was the bulk of the cost of the installation of the bike lane. It was 60 or 70, 80, somewhere $1,000 for that curb to be installed in front of the building.
But in
But
their defense, I would assume that it's like, okay, well, that's 60 or 70,000 that we weren't not expecting.
Correct. I'm
to
just talking in terms of the some of the comments I believe that
mhm.
I've heard from that were made on social media.
All right.
It was the bulk of that cost was for the installation of the curb. The
Okay.
paint didn't really cost a significant amount of money. There was some comments made about it could be up to $300,000. That was if for some reason, the Reamer team wanted, it was not a requirement by the city, wanted to continue that protected curb all the way down to Dowland.
Mhm.
We were only requiring that protected curb to be in front of AndyS restaurant, and then it could transition to just paint for the rest
Yeah.
of the duration of Downland, which was about 105, I think $105,000, a significant cost. I 100% understand that. An
Did you
alternative is that those columns have to move, which you're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars to re-engineer those columns. Still not a great solution. I 100% understand that. I wanted to talk about that bike lane for a moment to say it we realized it wasn't a perfect solution. It still had a cost associated with it, but it was a way to pull the traffic 8 feet away from those columns. Um, yes, we would still have to plow that bike lane in front of AndyS, but it would be with our sidewalk plow, which doesn't swoop out and risk hitting those columns. It would stay in the bike lane. It's completely different mechanism. Again, it was a creative option. It wasn't mandatory. It was an option on the table for the Reamer team to consider. It wasn't a take it or leave it. It was an option. It wasn't a you have to do this or else. It was a here's a thought for you to consider if it's better than moving your columns or whatever thoughts that his design team or construction team had.
and I don't want to get too deep into it because obviously you want to have these conversations with them. You want to be able to maybe present those options in court, whatever the defense that you're going to bring there. But listening to these details, I think the first question that, or the question that comes up in my mind is, was the city going to do this anyway in the next few years, or you have this bike plan planned? Uh, would it have cost the city to put in a curb anyway? And would it have been less uh, without the changes that were made to AndyS? Again, if the city was planning on doing this in the next few years or whenever that timeline was to come up, does it just does it make sense for this if you're going to do it? Does it make sense at that cost? Does it make sense to just do it now and resolve the court case, or at least put those plans in motion? Or is the cost greater because of the actions by AndyS?
So there are no funding mechanisms for the project at this time. It is 100% visionary.
Okay.
There's
Okay.
so any funding for the bike lane will be grant related or donation based for bike lanes downtown. I imagine that the project team will be applying for DNR or not DNR, TAP grants, alternative grants, um, federal funding, those types of things. Yes, the cost is greater because of the AndyS project. Um, with that protected curb having to be installed. I think I froze.
Okay.
Sorry, did I cut out there?
You broke up a little bit there, but we got what you
Okay.
said. It's
Okay.
greater because of the adjustments there.
Yes. So the vision for that strip there is just paint. It's not a protected curb or anything like that. So it would be significantly less when the city, the downtown does install that bike lane in the next 5, 10, or 15 years, whenever the funding does become available for that bike lane to be installed.
Okay. All right, so it doesn't seem like it's at all relevant at this time. It could have been a moved up solution potentially, but
Correct.
again, that falls on additional cost on Reamer if that was the cheaper of the two routes. But in
Yeah.
their opinion, based on them filing the suit, they don't want to have to do any of those two routes. They would just like the court to resolve that they can move forward without any additional expenses there. That's I mean that's the case in itself. So that brings me to one of my final questions, and I know you've spent some time with us this morning, and I appreciate that because I think there is a lot of public opinion out there, and if we can kind of, form some of the trails in that in those those some of the cloud out there. Um, if the court comes back and says, "Hey, we're siding with AndyS," they can start, going again, and finish the project. Are you even at the point of what the contingency plan is for the city for that lane?
I mean, the one of our one of our biggest concerns is the fact that we are aware that there is an issue. So if we are aware and know that that is a site plan violation, does that make the city liable if somebody gets hurt?
Mm.
So if the court rules that they can move forward, um, then my hope would be um, that in that ruling, in some way, shape, or form, that means the city is not liable if someone gets hurt.
Mm. But it
Um,
but the long term is not that's still, not the solution for the long term, and that's
no,
yeah.
no, but that's our number one concern right now.
Mhm.
I mean, not just the liability, but just the risk that somebody gets hurt, whether it's on the street, in their vehicle, up on the second floor of the building, and those columns get hit and the building gets compromised, whatever it may or may not be. Um, Secondary to that is then the underground. What happens if we have a water or sewer emergency? If you live in the city of Ludington, you've seen it happen before. Um, a, a water line starts leaking underground, whatever it might be, and we have to do emergency repairs. Those footings are underneath the road.
Mhm.
Um, what happens if we have to get under there and now it's impacting the AndyS restaurant. Um, and these are real concerns that we have. Um, and folks are going to say, why didn't you catch this during construction? There was no road. There was no road.
Well,
The,
and
the,
that's the
the
biggest
sidewalk
question.
the sidewalk was gone. The curb's gone. The road's gone. Everything's completely shut down. There are no measurements to take. There's no
Mhm.
measurements to take until everything is put back together again. And everything wasn't put back together again until May. And in May is when the city said there's a problem. And we said there was a problem, and we worked through for almost 3 months before we finally issued the stop work order, and we
Mhm.
tried for almost 3 months to say there's a problem and we've got to work through this, and you're not going to be able to open. And we had that conversation for 3 months until we finally had to say we've had no cooperation and here's a stop work order.
And I think you just um, responded to the because the one question I see out there always is the city approved the site plan. Why didn't they know this was wrong? Or if, so in their opinion, if it is, so on and so forth, that's the court clarification. But the question that comes up all the time is, why during the construction process did the city not check this? And I don't know what that process is. Do you go out every week? Do you go out once a month? Did this what is that expectation? And as you mentioned, there was no road to check. So is that the answer to those that say, why didn't the city confirm that they were on track and aligned with what was approved? What's the answer to that question?
There's key things that the building inspector goes out and measures, such as like the depths of like the footings and things like that. So he's able to measure those. But when there's not, when the curb and the sidewalk and all of those things are ripped out and the footings are being installed, there's nothing to measure to yet until those things are reinstalled. And unfortunately, those things were the last to be put back in.
So I'll just ask my last question because I know you, but obviously we're probably going to have some time to bring this back up in the future if there's some clarification that needs to be done. If you feel like that, again, we know that in a pending court case, we're not looking for breaking news out of it, because you have what you have provided to the news media and in the public hearings and such. But I guess I'm curious about when they had those items in place, did it take a long time for the inspector to inspect those? Or was it within a week or 2 weeks? Was it in the natural form of, oh, okay, they're done with this, let's go check it, and oh, we have a problem? Did that was there a natural timeline in regards to that?
The 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 road was put back in the first week of May, and it was May 8th, May 9th, somewhere in there that we knew there was a problem.
Okay, so it was right. Okay, all right. So this and that was communicated to them, and so on and so forth. So it sounds like the timeline is natural. I don't think it's what nobody's fault in the sense it was. This is what we found out. This is what we communicated with, and then conversations at least started, or something happened there.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm hoping that that might resolve the questions about why didn't the city know this prior to. If it truly was, there was nothing to measure or to examine in the sense, and then you did that pretty quickly or knew that pretty quickly, then I think that resolves it. And then the other question that remains out there is, why doesn't the city just quote unquote give into this, let it proceed, get a new restaurant opened? You address that with some, there's could be some liability that happens, it sounds like, from injuries or water issues under the ground and such. So there's some factors there that certainly, hopefully, we as the public, not just the media, but from the public standpoint, can take into consideration. I'll leave the last word to you on this. Is there anything that we missed that uh, maybe frustrates you, that's not being communicated correctly out there, that will help the public understand?
It will public understand, and I can say this, and I probably won't change a single mind. But I have heard from both sides. I have had, and I'm sure Dr. Reamer has as well. I have had um, the extremely nasty emails and voicemails filled with hate, um, and the complete opposite. cheering the city on to, for lack of better words, to fight the good fight. This is not about hate. This is not about fighting a good fight. This is about the city trying to meet the requirements of a site plan, and this is about Dr. Reamer trying to open his building and open his restaurant and running a successful business. And there is no, from the city's perspective, there is no hate or feelings involved in this.
Mhm.
And and I just hope that if folks take anything from this, it's the fact that there's respect here, um, on both sides, and from the city's perspective, we are all working towards the same goal, and that is to get this building open. And some of the outside banter is not helpful, and I
Mhm.
know it won't stop it. It won't stop it by any means. But we all have a job to do, and we we want to be successful. And what that success looks like is having a successful downtown and having AndyS open, and having AndyS open, and operating, and also having this issue resolved in whatever that method looks like. But this extra background noise isn't helpful, and it doesn't change the way that we operate or the way that Dr. Reamer and his team operates. Um, so, uh,
Well, and I think that's where it says that, if you're going to pursue it in court, that's where the information comes out, and if it's a jury or if it's just a judge that decides on it, hopefully, as the two sides walk out of the court, they can say, okay, let's move ahead to success and that restaurant opening, and trying to bring down the temperature, I guess, in that sense. And obviously that's for the future, but for right now, we know that nothing is going to be, a flip of a switch away at this point, based on what has happened, and what's pending out there as well. So let's. I know it's after 9. I'd like 5 more minutes of your time if you have it. If you don't, we can pick this up in the future. But I'd love that's on the docket tonight about the events that are up for approval, because that says that the city is looking forward to all of these exciting events, from the fireworks, for the New Year's and other events. Do you mind wanting to go through that? Do you have a couple more minutes?
I have a few more minutes. They've got to be a quick
Okay,
5 minutes.
let's
Um,
do it. You've got
let's see here.
the New Year's fireworks are the permit for approval there. The question that I have, because they have jumped around a little bit based on some roof issues in the
Yes,
past, have they told you what the plan is for the permit and where at this point?
yes, I believe they're still using the old bank building.
Okay, okay, all right.
Yeah, I haven't heard
Uh,
any.
All right. And then the Chamber Alliance looking to do the Brewfest again this year, the Offshore Classic, the Coast Artisan Fair, and the Glow Parade, just like last year. And so those dates are set and just needing approval tonight. Is that right?
Correct.
All right. And my final, as I only that was quicker than I thought, is the revision of a noise ordinance. Do you mind just giving us a tease about that? And obviously more details coming up tonight.
Yes. So we've had a lot of questions about our noise ordinance. Um, we have a noise ordinance, and it is very it is a police power ordinance, and it's generally been addressed through police power ordinance and disturbing the peace. And we've not really had any issues with it, but we decided to sit down and clarify how excessive or disruptive noise is handled. So we just kind of, beefed that up a little bit, and made sure that it reduced late night disturbances, and made sure that it was applicable to both the downtown area and the residential area. Um, it talks about, let's see, it identifies it just really clarifies the prohibited areas. We didn't want to go into some communities manage their noise ordinance by having like decibel readings, those types of things. We did not want to have an officer or code enforcement bring out like a decibel reader, anything like that can get really hairy in court. So I believe the noise ordinance will be from, Monday through Sunday, every night of the week, from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. Um, and your noise is just kind of limited to the envelope of your property.
Okay. Yep.
So
Which is fair. Yeah.
and
Was there?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
And I believe if the noise can be heard outside of the envelope of your property for more than 2 consecutive minutes, then it's considered a violation of the noise ordinance. And we went back and forth. Was it too strict for the downtown? But it's already very it conforms to what our downtown is already doing. There's various downtown businesses who have live music, especially on the weekends in the summertime outside. But at 10 o'clock, they bring that live music inside, and close their doors. So it's not prohibitive to what's already happening downtown, and protects those residences who are downtown, and there's apartment buildings upstairs and things like that, and just kind of tightens that up a little bit. But really, I think it's reflective of what we already had in our disturbing the peace ordinance. It just brings it forward more in a formal noise ordinance, and makes it a little bit more black and white.
All right. That's fair. That is on the agenda tonight. It's the city council meeting at 6 o'clock. Kaitlin, I know we focused on one particular topic for a while today. I promise you we won't do like a court TV segment throughout the event, throughout the court hearing. So don't worry about that. But I think as this is one of those topics that community members are concerned about, it was good to be able to discuss that. So we appreciate you doing that, and the other agenda topics, just a few of them, for tonight's city council meeting at 6 o'clock. I know you got to go, so I appreciate the time that you took today, and we will connect in a couple of weeks. Okay.
Thank you. I would like to say that for the next few meetings, we will be talking about the city budget. So
Yes.
for those viewers who are interested in the city's budget, how we spend our money, what our revenue sources are, where we spend our money, those types of things, that will be our focus for the next several meetings. So please feel
And that starts tonight,
free
right?
to tune in. No, that'll start in 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Which is very interesting, because that's from a budget standpoint, from where the tax dollars are going, people are concerned about those sort of things. So
Correct.
that's important. We'll dive into that the next time that we chat, and it would be good to continue with that topic. So anything else that comes to mind? I know This is hopefully a good forum for you to get information out about the city. And I know we've spent a lot of time, but is there anything else that you want to make sure that the community knows about?
Not off the top of my head. Thank you for taking some time with me, and like I said, I know that the downtown project is a hot topic, but I don't like seeing the community split over these types of things, and I hope that we can get through it and hopefully focus on something more positive in
Absolutely.
the future.
We will plan on doing that for sure. Kaitlin Aldrich, the city manager of Ludington, joining us. And of course, if you missed any part of this segment, it's there on YouTube and both of our Facebook pages, WMOM and Hot Country Hits. Kaitlin, thanks for taking some time with us this morning.
Thank you.
You're